So right now, Trump supporters are still in flex mode. They're still celebrating their victory. Some of them are starting to Google how tariffs work when they found out they were not going to be getting their Christmas bonuses now. Some of them are starting to Google how tariffs work once they realize that the prices are going to go up. But for the most part, they're still celebrating, they're still flexing, and they still think that when Donald Trump comes through the door, he's going to fix every single problem they had on day one. And just remember, Brando called it on day one. Before his pen even hits the first executive order, they will say the economy is great again. Everything is wonderful, even though he will be sitting there riding off of Joe Biden's economy. They will still think it's a victory, and they still don't realize they've been played. And someone else who doesn't realize he's been played is Donald Trump himself. You see, he went out there and he played the crowd. He worked the crowd, and he played them to his advantage. And there were people that looked over at that, and they saw him doing that and thought, hey, he can easily manipulate those people, but he himself is one of the most easily manipulated people that there is. And that's the part that a lot of us didn't take time and look at. While Donald Trump was out there praising dictators, we was trying to point out to people that should alarm them. We was trying to say, hey, wait a minute, if someone's praising dictators and someone admires the way they run their country and the way they do business, that should be a red flag to you. You should be concerned about that because they could easily turn that on you. But the people that he was praising, these dictators that he was praising, was looking over at him, lead his gullible flock, and they saw his weaknesses, and they saw just how gullible he truly is. And he gets elected, and right after that, Vladimir Putin absolutely trolls Trump. Because on Russian TV, they actually did a video segment where they shared nudes of Melania Trump, and the host stood there with smiles on their face trying to hold back the laughter. We are a laughing stock on the world stage. There's a whole lot of people out there in the world that are very concerned and heartbroken for us and concerned about what's coming next. But what I'm saying is we are a laughing stock amongst world leaders like that. Because they looked over, they saw him manipulate his crowd, and they realized he could be manipulated. And I know there's probably a Trump supporter listening to this video going, how's he manipulated? Man, he's strong. He gets in there and gets shit done, man. He's going to get him in there on day one. He's going to get rid of everybody. He's going to lay down the law. People like Vladimir Putin, President Xi, Kim Jong-un, people like that, they look over at Donald Trump and they see him get all butthurt over Kamala saying that he has smaller crowds and people are walking out. They see the things that he focuses in on. They see how vain that he is. And they see that as a sign of weakness. So the first thing they're going to do absolutely is pet him on his back and say, boy, you're a strong guy. Wow, have you never watched The Sons of Anarchy? Have you never watched Breaking Bad? Have you never watched any story where the bad guy figures out there's some gullible dude he can manipulate and they will make them think? Have you ever watched the old movie The Hustler with Paul Newman and Jackie Gleason? I mean, they would. That's one of the oldest tricks in the book. Guy goes into a pool hall. He's a pool shark. He knows how to play the game. He's going to run the table on anybody in there. But he'll go in there and he will let some newcomer come in and he'll let him win a few games. And he'll even get mad and act like he's intimidated. And he'll even act like that he's scared he's going to lose all of his money. And then one day he'll say, hey, let's raise the stakes a little bit higher now. Let's go for a little bit higher. And then absolutely run the table and leave the guy standing there with nothing. That's what's going to happen with Donald Trump. They're already laughing at him. They're already mocking and trolling him after his victory. And he doesn't see it. Because he's too busy flexing. Because he's too busy talking about how when he comes in on day one, he's going to lay down the law and do everything and just do it all on day one. He'll get it all accomplished on day one. What it's going to take, as bad as I hate to say this, it's going to have to take all of the things that we warned them about happening and affecting them. Now, I'm sure he's already got a plan in motion to blame it on the Democrats, and I have no faith that they wouldn't just roll right along with that and believe what he says. But what they don't understand is that all the receipts we brought and all the times we pointed out just how fragile he was, we were doing so to let you know we see how weak and fragile he is. We see how vain he truly is. And we see how fragile his ego truly is. But we're just content creators sitting here trying to point it out to you. These are strong men that sees through it. and understands how to get what they want, understands how to manipulate him. All they have to do is tell him he's a big man, tell him he's the strongest man in the room, and then they'll go on their television network, share nudes of his wife, and sit back and laugh. If you think for 1 second they respect him, they don't. He is a laughingstock to them. His followers are an even bigger laughingstock because they realized, hey, he's got these people right in the palm of his hand. So Elon Musk, go buy Twitter, turn it into a dumpster fire of misinformation. Tell them that's the truth. Tell them to reject anything else they see and to only believe that. And once we get them all believing that and believing that he's going to save them in one day, we can come in, we can take their country, and we won't even have to fire a shot. And I can't remember the Russian's name that said it. I'm sure someone will drop it in the comments for me. But back years ago, there was a Russian that said, we'll take America and we'll never fire a shot. And my grandfather was a World War II veteran, and he used to always warn me about that. Now, he was a lifelong Republican, and he was a believer, he was a Christian, but he used to always say to me, son, one day, I believe that man's right. I believe that you'll see this country taken and they won't have to fire a shot. And those words of my grandfather telling me that man said that, has been ringing in my ears ever since Tuesday. And especially when I seen them troll him on Russian TV, I went, geez, like, man, how embarrassing this is. But his followers will still think he's strong for the moment. They'll still think he's strong. And I have to be honest with you, it just feels like we're living in a world now with the Joker and no Batman. I sometimes say, who's going to save the day? Well, I tell you what we don't need to do. We don't need to sit and look for one person to be it. We don't sit and go, well, and listen, there's a lot of good voices on the Democratic side of the aisle. I'm not knocking any of them. We could easily sit here and start breaking it down, going down the list of who might be a good possible Democratic frontrunner to come forward and challenge in 2028. We could have that conversation. But we can't depend on whoever that is to save us. We have to save us. We have to act. We have to stand together, and we have to lift up people in marginalized groups. We have to lift up people whose lives are about to be threatened like never before, and whose livelihoods are going to be threatened like never before. But if they think Donald Trump is strong, if they think he's the strong man, no, he got stiff-armed. He got strong-armed really hard by people who played him. And because he was so, I mean, those are like when Kamala said that about the debate, when Kamala said that that his crowds was leaving, and he spent the next weeks talking about that, he could not get off his mind. We all sat back and talked about how fragile that was, but imagine if you was in a position of power going, whoa, wait a minute. That guy would let that get under his skin? That guy would get his feelings hurt because they called him weird? Well, hey, let's pat him on the back and tell him he's strong. He's praising us. Let's tell him he's strong, and he'll fall for it. He played his followers, and Vladimir Putin played him. And it's going to be a slow, painful awakening when they finally wake up to that. I don't know that they will, though. I think they will always have someone else to blame, because that's the one thing Donald Trump mastered, was the art of victimhood and making it everyone's fault but his.